Now, if elections were held late last month, presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos and his running mate Sara Duterte would win, at least based on the latest Pulse survey. The survey conducted from January 19 to 24 shows Marcos's score rose to 60% from 53% in December. He still holds a wide gap over Vice President Leni Robredo, who is a far second with 16%. She got a lower rating than her 20% score in December. Senator Manny Pacquiao and Manila Mayor Isko Moreno are tied with 6 or 8% each, while Senator Ping Lacson rounded up the top 5 with 4%. Marcos's team says the survey shows his message of national unity is resonating among Filipinos, but for Robredo's team, the survey was done before her performance in presidential interviews and fora conducted last month, as well as the massive show of support at the beginning of the campaign period. Meanwhile, Moreno's team believes the Manila mayor gained the most from the presidential interviews and fora. The team claims its internal pre-election survey showed voter preference for Moreno went up because of those events. Pacquiao said he is not backing out of the race despite the survey. He likened the candidate's current ranking to a boxing match where they're just in round 4 or 5, while Lacson appealed to his supporters not to lose heart if surveys do not reflect the support they feel on the ground. On the vice presidency, Sara Duterte's survey score rose from 46% in December to 50% in January. Senate President Tito Soto is second with 29%, while Senator Kiko Pangilinan third with 11%. Pulse Asia conducted the survey through face-to-face interviews with 2,400 Filipino adults with a 2% error margin. Now, and as the election season warms up, authorities are keeping an eye on campaign activities that can be super spreaders of COVID-19. They're also finalizing a list of areas that will need special attention due to potential threats to security. Senior correspondent David Santos has the details.
The Quezon City government issuing a reminder for candidates and their supporters to strictly observe health protocols after Sunday's rally of the Robredo-Pangilinan tandem at the QC Circle. The Philippine National Police says it is monitoring all campaign activities to make sure these do not become super spreader events.
Kung kinakailangan po na tayo po ay magsasampa ng mga kaso, ayan po ay coordinate natin sa Department of Health, siyempre mo pati na po rin sa COMELEC who has jurisdiction over these cases po.
Security forces have also submitted to COMELEC an initial list of so-called areas of concern for the May 9 polls. Majority are in Mindanao, which are facing threats from rebel and radical groups.
If you have more than 3 election-related incidents, then COMELEC deemed it important that the AFP and the PNP focus on these areas.
7 cities and 39 towns nationwide are in the list so far, including areas with intense political rivalry. But both the police and military are not disclosing details since information is still subject for validation.
Yung final list po ay i-announce po ng COMELEC once ma-approve po yan ng COMELEC and back po.
As to warnings of alleged foreign meddling in the coming elections, authorities say they will have to take their cue from COMELEC if these claims have basis.
And if they do tell us that there is a need for intervention, specifically on threats coming outside our country that will interfere in the election, orders that we will receive from COMELEC themselves.
Meanwhile, the military chief, General Andres Centino, has been cautioning his troops to steer clear of partisan politics. Campaign sorties are banned inside camps, and soldiers cannot openly show support for any candidate, especially on social media.
We will not tell them who to vote for. What is important is they do not campaign for anyone in particular.
Officials say violators will face the military justice system. David Santos, CNN Philippines.
Up ahead on Newsnight, Alert Level 2 is extended here in Metro Manila until the end of the month. And the spiritual advisor of El Shaddai clarifies the group is not endorsing presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos. Details next. Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. The Interagency Task Force says Metro Manila will stay under Alert Level 2 until the end of the month. But even before that announcement, mayors of the National Capital Region did say they wanted an extension of current restrictions. Here's George Quiles with that story.
COVID-19 cases in Metro Manila dropped over the past few weeks. But for the Metro Manila Council, this is not enough to further relax the restrictions in the capital region. MMC Chairman and Parañaque City Mayor Edwin Olivares says they agreed to recommend the extension of Alert Level 2 over Metro Manila until the end of the month.
Tayo ngayon sa Metro Manila, hindi pa tayo sa low risk eh. Nandun pa tayo sa moderate risk. At kung bubuksan natin ito, yung iniiwasan natin yung another stage sa atin.
As far as parameters are concerned, Health Secretary Francisco Duque thinks Metro Manila should really stay under Alert Level 2. He says while the 2-week COVID-19 growth rate is at negative 81%, the average daily attack rate or ADAR is still at 11 for every 100,000. Even the ICU and COVID-19 bed utilization rates in the region are still at around 30%.
Hanggat hindi bumababa yung atin ADAR na dapat umabot sa 7, yun ang threshold, or below, hindi tayo makakapag-de-escalate to Alert Level 1.
While the situation is getting better, authorities are concerned about mass gatherings during political rallies. Duque says all campaign activities must be duly coordinated with the local government and the police to ensure that all health protocols are observed.
Hindi po pwede na magiging pabaya tayo rito dahil sigurado magiging super spreader events ito, mababalik na naman tayo sa mas mataas na alert level status, and we don't like that anymore.
As Parañaque is concerned, kapag di sila sumunod, patitigil namin. Patitigil namin yung rally. Pag hindi sila sumunod per protocol, yung pagbigay namin ng permit sa kanila, patitigil po sa Parañaque.
George Quiles, CNN Philippines.
The IATF places 7 areas under the stricter alert level 3 beginning February 16th. These are Iloilo City, Iloilo Province, Guimaras, Zamboanga City, Davao de Oro, Davao Occidental, and South Cotabato. Under alert level 3, establishments are allowed to operate by 30 to 50%, while in-person classes are prohibited. The rest of the country will be under alert level 2. While most parts of the country are under alert level 2 due to the decreasing COVID-19 cases, health officials say they are still uncertain when the pandemic will become endemic. But what exactly does that mean? Carlin Bonkin breaks it down in this report.
According to the Oxford Dictionary, a disease becomes endemic when it is already regularly found among particular people or in a certain area. It's when the cases, while constantly present, become steadily predictable. So if COVID-19 infection becomes as commonly occurring like the measles or dengue, then COVID-19 pandemic may turn to endemic. But that doesn't mean we're totally safe from severe cases. It remains a threat, especially for those who are at risk, like children, the immunocompromised, health workers, the unvaccinated, and people living in areas with insufficient vaccines.
Ang flu virus, for example, lalong-lalo na sa ibang bansa, acceptable sa kanilang populasyon na nagkakaroon ng pagkakamatay ng halimbawa sabihin mo ng ganito kadaming libo sa isang taon. Hindi nangangahulugang wala ng COVID-19 kapag ito ay nasa endemic state na.
So, what does an endemic COVID-19 mean for Filipinos? The Health Department says at this stage, the public is largely self-regulated, with no more restrictions like lockdowns and limited establishment capacity. Like the wearing of seatbelt for protection in case of a road accident, in this new normal era, following health protocols should already be part of everyone's routine. There should also be regular vaccinations and better access to COVID-19 tests and treatments. The health spokesperson says the wearing of masks will likely be the last to go.
I think the mask mandate will be the last to go because it will protect each and every one of us.
Mamomodify na lang siguro base dun sa dami ng kaso na kumakalat sa community. Kung marami ang kaso sa community, malamang magmamaska. Pero habang umuunti siya, medyo mas bababa ang risk na ma-expose ka sa pang-araw-araw. Therefore, kahit hindi ka nakamask, mababa ang chance na mahawaan ka. So parang ganun siguro yung mindset na pupuntahan natin over time.
But at this point, health officials are uncertain as to when will COVID-19 becomes endemic.
Meron pa tayong uncertainty kung magkakaroon pa ng mutations and new variants in the future. And dadating tayo dun sa state na endemic na siya, ang COVID, no? Kung ang mataas na pagbabakuna natin o kaya natural immunity, plus the fact na manageable, predictable, stable na ang mga kasos.
When you say end of the pandemic, dalawa lang yan. It's either nag-burn out na yung isang bagay, hindi na talaga nagtatransmit, or naging endemic na nga siya.
The World Health Organization is expected to make a formal declaration if and when COVID-19 pandemic has reached the end game. Caroline Bongkin, CNN Philippines.
A look at what some presidential candidates are up to. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos will hold a grand campaign rally in Quezon City. He will also show his support for mayoral candidate Mike Defensor.
Vice President Leni Robredo visited the headquarters of the Philippine National Police in Camp Crame in Quezon City. She said she is ready to provide any assistance to the organization in her remaining days as VP. She also attended an event where national artists such as Virgilio Almario, Ben Cab, and Ryan Cayabyab declared their support for her. One group offered 100 poems written for her. Labor leader Leody de Guzman remains firm in his push to decriminalize abortion and legalize divorce should he win the presidency. In a media forum with Catholic station Radio Veritas, de Guzman said women can have more freedom over their lives and bodies.
Ang nakikita ko, Father, ay mababawasan ang pagkamatay ng mga maraming kababaihan dahil sa pagpapa-undergo sa isang lihim na sistema ng pagpapa-abort. Pero makakabawas tayo ng malaki dyan.
And Senator Ping Lacson said unity is best accomplished through leadership by example. For Lacson, a leader who practices what he preaches is the best unifying factor. Now, the spiritual advisor of El Shaddai clarifies the Catholic Charismatic Group has not endorsed presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos. That's after El Shaddai founder Mike Velarde endorsed the former senator and his running mate Sara Duterte. Retired Bishop Ted Bacani says Velarde's endorsement is personal.
At sa kanya pong pag-endorso kay BBM, hindi po niya kinonsulta mga elders. Ngayon, si Brother Mike ay may karapatan at may kalayaan na mag-endorse ng sino mang kandidato na gusto niyang i-endorso. Ganon din naman, ang bawat miyembro o kasapi ng El Shaddai ay mayroon din naman kalayaan at karapatan na pumili. Gusto kong sabihin, ang endorsement ni Brother Mike kay Bongbong Marcos sa aking pananaw ay maling-mali. Si Bongbong Marcos ay naghahanap daw ng pagkakaisa, ngunit hindi pinagsisisihan. At ang kanyang pamilya hindi pinagsisisihan ang kanilang ginawa noong nakaraan martial law.
The United States, news overseas now, the United States saying it is getting ready for what it calls a worst-case scenario in the crisis between Russia and Ukraine. Officials warn an invasion could happen any day now, citing the buildup of Russian forces in the border with Ukraine. U.S. President Joe Biden has sent 3,000 more troops to Poland to help Americans leave the Eastern European country. Now, here at home, the government has yet to finalize plans to repatriate nearly 400 Filipinos in Ukraine. Some say they prefer to stay because of the uncertainty if they come home. Our Tristan Nadalo has more.
Back-to-back discussions are now being held between Philippine government officials and the Filipino community in Ukraine as tensions soar between Ukraine and Russia. The DFA has yet to make its final decision on repatriation or evacuation plans for 380 Filipinos living there. The DFA has yet to announce an updated alert level for Ukraine, which would also determine if evacuation would be voluntary or mandatory. Based on our sources, some Filipinos are deciding to stay in Ukraine despite the unpredictable situation, or even if they are urged by the government to avail of commercial flights back to the Philippines. Some say that they cannot just leave their jobs or their families in Ukraine, as people trying not to panic. Filipina Rhea Taibov has been living in Ukraine for 5 years now. She is married to a Ukrainian national.
At first, gustong-gusto ko rin po talaga umuwi nung first ko pong na ano po, to be honest, nung una ko pong narinig yung news po na gano'n nga po, invade daw po yung Ukraine and we are living in Kyiv po mismo sa center. So, I was really worried and but now po, nung habang tumatagal, sir, parang okay naman po. We will stay po. Hindi po kami aalis.
Her husband says that things are still normal and they remain on alert should the situation worsen.
People thinking about this, but they going to work. This is absolutely normal life here, and everybody come. We already have war in Ukraine already 8 years since 2014. It started, and but it's on eastern Ukraine. It's just on small part of Ukraine on the east. Between Ukraine and Russia, we have already this conflict long time.
Lawmakers are also urging the DFA to be ready with humanitarian flights to ensure that Filipinos will be able to go home immediately, like what happened in Afghanistan. Ukraine is now seeking a meeting with Russian officials to determine the real intention of Moscow's troop buildup in the next 48 hours. Over 100,000 military personnel are now deployed on Ukraine's border, which means an attack is imminent, according to U.S. officials. More than a dozen nations have already urged their citizens to leave Ukraine. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
Coming up on Newsnight, find out who took the title at this year's Super Bowl and which old-school rap legends lit up the halftime stage. Plus, it's love all around on social media. We take a look at trending topics this Valentine's Day, from weddings to a boyfriend reveal. Keep it here on CNN Philippines. Welcome back to CNN Philippines. The Los Angeles Rams staged a comeback win to take Super Bowl 56, defeating the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20. The game took place in SoFi Stadium, California, only the second time in the championship's history that a team played on its home field. Rams were wide receiver Cooper Kupp was named this year's Super Bowl MVP. And the highly anticipated halftime show went old school, giving way to some of the biggest artists in hip-hop: Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar. Rapper Eminem made headlines after taking a knee on stage, known as an act of protest against police brutality. Another trending topic from the Super Bowl, the newly released second trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It shows Stephen Strange and the Scarlet Witch teaming up to fix the multiverse, but the new teaser shows some complications along the way, including clones of themselves from an alternate universe.
You break the rules. Look out! To become a hero. I do it, I become the enemy. That doesn't seem fair.
The Marvel film starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Elizabeth Olsen comes out in local theaters in May. Also catching netizens' attention, these acts of love that inspire us on Valentine's Day. The spirit of pride and romance took over Quezon City 2 days before the 14th. These LGBTQ+ couples exchanged vows in a mass wedding last weekend. Also proving that love wins, comedian Vice Ganda and his boyfriend of 3 years, Ayon Perez. A video released yesterday showed the couple's Las Vegas wedding ceremony from last year. The event had the couple exchanging rings and signing a certificate of commitment. Another star makes a bold move this Love Day. Actress-singer Maymay Entrata revealed her partner, whom she calls her Valentino, on Instagram. Maymay, though, did not disclose the name of her boyfriend. The post has gotten some supportive comments from fellow celebrities, including Liza Soberano and Angel Locsin. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Hontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Enjoy the rest of your Valentine's evening.
Have you ever wondered why problems with your ears sometimes affect your nose, your throat, your eyes, and vice versa? And why your nose starts to run when you cry? Or why your food tastes bland when you have a cold? That's because all of these 4 organs are intricately connected. Together, these parts of your body help us experience the world through sight, smell, hearing, and taste. Now, losing one of these senses can have definite negative effects on our health as well as our well-being. That's why it's important that we take care of all of these vital organs. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Viruses and other germs can enter our eyes, ears, nose, and throat if we don't practice proper hygiene or safety. Our guests are here to talk about all of this and more. Let's welcome with us Dr. Glenn Angeles. He's an ophthalmologist at the Health Hub Clinic. Also joining us is Dr. Paulo Angelo Catindig, who is an ENT, head and neck surgeon, rhinologist from the Bulacan Medical Center as well as the Makati Medical Center. Pag-usapan natin ang ating mga mata. Is it very common ngayon na pandemic, gaano ka-risky ang ating mga mata when it comes to being infected with COVID-19?
So with regards to COVID-19 and the eyes, we've been seeing COVID positive patients on patients with sore eyes. For example, a patient consults us with sore eyes. Usually, we ask kung meron siyang ibang symptoms like cough, colds, fever. Then, if they usually have their test done, usually it comes out positive.
Dr. Glenn, ang notion ng marami is the COVID virus is in the air and dumadapo sa mata natin. Kaya tayo nag-face shield, kaya kailangan protektahan ng eyes. Is this more the case where the virus enters our eye through the air, or is it more of a contamination type of inoculation?
More on contamination type, more on contact, for example. Because for conjunctivitis, usually makatayan, diba? Itchy. When patients rub their eyes, usually what happens is they touch another object or they touch a table, then someone touches a table, then they rub their eyes. So yung mga nagfe-facial, technically it's helpful in a way because it avoids us from touching our eyes. Kumbaga, yung mga naka-glasses, okay sila because napoprotektahan sila.
Dr. Glenn, you also mentioned a very important one, ang sore eyes, conjunctivitis. Pag hindi naman COVID-19 ang cause ng conjunctivitis, how is this normally treated? A lot of Filipinos like to avail of the over-the-counter vasoconstrictors, yung mga eye drops para pampawala ng redness. Is this the right medication to use for sore eyes?
For sore eyes, usually the symptoms yan kumbaga, it's viral, so it's self-limiting. Usually, it will resolve after 1 to 2 weeks. I ask my patient to do bed rest so they cannot go to work because nakakahawa talaga siya. So they can use supportive therapy like mga artificial tears para sa parang supportive management lang. They can put cold compress. Importante dyan is frequent hand washing and proper hygiene.
Now let's talk about corrective lenses versus contact lenses. Is one better than the other, Dr. Glenn?
Actually, it will really depend. No? For glasses, at least it's a protection. For contact lens, okay lang rin siya. Both are okay to correct your error of refraction.
Let's talk about the extra added care that people should be doing if ever they choose to use contact lenses, because this can also be a vehicle for a lot of germs, for a lot of viruses kapag hindi ito naalagaan. What's the proper contact lens care, Dr. Glenn?
So for contact lens care, definitely you need to remove it every day. You need to clean it. And with contact lens naman kasi, ang magiging concern lang dyan is how you clean it and how you properly store it. Kasi contact lens, may chance. Also, you need to keep on putting parang artificial tears to lubricate the contact lens, or else baka mag-dry and pagtanggal mo, magkaroon ng corneal abrasions or superficial punctate keratitis, magkasugat, then that's a cause of concern.
Okay. Let's talk about, since pandemic, maraming mga tao, Dr. Glenn, ang work from home. They're using their laptops, computers for numerous meetings and whatnot. And ang nangyayari dito, ang common is ang eye strain. And some studies are pointing that what adds to this eye strain is the blue light emitted by a lot of gadgets. How true is this, Dr. Glenn? What should our viewers do? Kasi unavoidable kung work from home that they're in front of their laptop or gadgets.
Blue light din naman kasi when you go out, sun, it's helpful then. It makes us alert or I don't know. But for gadgets, more on eye strain kasi siya. So for eye strain, what people can do, usually they have Zoom meetings, they have meetings online, they're playing with their gadgets, YouTube, mga ganon. What they can do is they can rest their eyes. So papasok ulit tayo dun sa 2020, no? Every 20 minutes, you rest for 20 seconds by looking 20 feet away.
Now let's also talk about something that may be common during this time, ang hordeolum, also known as a sty, or in Tagalog, kulite. So how does this happen, Dr. Glenn? What are the risk factors para magkaroon ng kulite sa mata? How serious of a condition is this? Pwede ba itong gamutin sa bahay? Because a lot of people now are wary again in going to the hospital for treatment.
Actually, marami rin kulite. So for kulite, there are pores dun sa mata natin, sa pilik mata natin, na gets blocked, then gets infected. So para siyang pimple pero sa mata. No? So for treatment naman nun, usually we give antibiotic ointments and ask the patients to do warm compress, and if ever, we can also do bleed hygiene for the patients. It really depends eh. Pag malaki na, sobrang laki, we also give them, parang if there's another, parang nagkakaroon ng pre-septal cellulitis or yung infection na mas grabe, we give oral antibiotics din.
So marami tayong napag-usapan with regards to our eye, and we will continue to talk about that later on the show. But just as important is our eyes, our ears, nose, and throat are also vital for our everyday care. When we return, we'll talk about how to properly care for them. We're your connection to healthcare. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk. Proper ear care is more than just hygiene. Safety from noise and injury is important as well. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and you're watching MedTalk Health Talk. We're together in health. Learning how to properly clean the ears, all of these are good when it comes to our care of our ears. But let's first talk about hygiene. Cotton buds, any sharp-pointed object should not be used to clean the ears, as they may injure not just the ear canal, but the vital organs further down, like your eardrum. From top to bottom, let's start first with the ears. Paano ba ang tamang paraan ng paglinis ng tenga? Wax is a very protective part of our body that protects us from infection, gives moisture to our ear canal, kaya hindi ko talaga rin ina-advise that we clean it every day. What I usually advise to my patients is you can use, after taking a bath, you can use your towel, just clean the outer part of your ear, wipe it clean, then basically that's it. But syempre mga Filipinos, they're very malinis, hygienic. So may mga pasyente pa rin that would really ask, Doc, how often can we use cotton buds? So usually I would tell them, sige, you can use your cotton buds at least minimum of once a week, but just the outer ear canal. Kasi usually naman yung wax mo is being produced at the outer part of the ear. The tendency kasi if we push it masyado sa loob, papasok masyado yung wax, then it would cause hearing problem naman sa patients. Let's talk about hearing loss naman. This is something that is very prevalent now, especially habang tumatanda. It is not uncommon na humina ang pandinig ng mga seniors natin o mga loved ones natin na mga nakatatanda. But a lot of people may not be aware of this. What are some of the red flags kaya, Dr. Paulo? What are some of the cues that a hearing exam may be needed for hearing loss? So usually for my patients, ang mas magandang tanongin dyan is yung kasama actually, no? Not really the patient, because the patient themselves will not notice na mahina yung pandinig nila. Ang makakapuna nun is yung mga kasama sa bahay. The relatives or yung companion would tell us na, Dok, yung pong pasyenteng yan, lagi po niyang pinapaulit-ulit yung sinasabi namin, or kunyari, tatanungin namin, iba yung sinasabi, iba sinasagot, or they would tell us, ulitin mo nga yung sinasabi mo. One. Number two, volume ng TV. Minsan napakalakas na ng volume ng TV na akala ng patient normal na yon. So better ask the companion rather than the patient, kasi patients would not notice it eh. Mas madalas the companion will notice na, hina pala yung pandinig, talagang tingi ka na.
Now let's move on to the nose. Especially now, a lot of people are scared of COVID. Anything that they feel, any disturbance in their nose, nasal congestion, rhinitis, o yung runny nose, they're very anxious. How can our viewers spot whether this is caused by an allergic entity or this could probably be COVID?
The problem right now is that we really cannot differentiate whether it is allergic or viral infection or COVID. So for now, because of the current surge of COVID infection, what I would usually recommend my patient is still to get tested. That is the number one rule when it comes kapag runny nose. Kasi the only way that you can differentiate if it is viral or COVID versus non-COVID is through testing. Mahirap talagang makipagsapalaran. Though by history alone, some patients would tell me na, Doc, talagang even before COVID, I have runny nose already, frequent sneezing and itchiness. Now, syempre, aside from nasal congestion alone, patient would also complain of fever, cough, yun. Syempre, medyo magdodoble ingat ka na, lalo na kapag gano'n.
Anong first aid ng pagdudugo ng ilong o ang epistaxis? Madalas mangyayari ito, especially sa mga bata.
So usually pag may mga epistaxis or balingoy-ngoy in Tagalog, no, what I usually tell my patients is, number one, do not panic. Number two, try, kasi yung iba, ang ginagawa natin, we try to tilt our heads up no? So sinasabi ko, wag niyong itataas or titingala yung ulo. Try to bring them down, then just put digital pressure, no? Dun sa ilong. Try to press it at least around 5 to 10 minutes until yung bleeding would stop. If there is persistence of bleeding at lumalabas na pati sa bibig, just let them spit it out. Then you can put cold compress, ice compress, either sa head part or dito sa may batok na part. That is okay also. Aside from that, also from the nose, let's go further down sa throat. Minsan kasama ng mga nasal symptoms yan ay ang sore throat or masakit lumunok. That's also another cause for anxiety when it comes to COVID. Dr. Paolo, when it comes to these changes, explain to our viewers what they should do if they lose their voice. What disease entities could these lead to?
There are some cases also that I had na they would complain of hoarseness or napaos ang boses nila. Ang tawag natin dyan is laryngitis, no? But for shorter duration, what we call this acute laryngitis. And for those cases, ang importante is voice rest, no? If magkaroon ka ng paos ng boses, pahinga lang, talagang ipahinga yung boses and then try to hydrate. Drink a lot of fluids, then try to consult if there is persistence of this hoarseness for more than a week time, accompanied by soreness, pananakit na ng lalamunan, then please try to consult your healthcare professional.
When it comes to choking naman, anong magandang first aid?
Number one, syempre yung response ng patient. No? There's what we call Heimlich maneuver. No? But ang ginagawa natin, kunyari biglang na-choke yung pasyente, you pupunta kayo sa likod ng pasyente, then you wrap around dun sa ibabaw ng tiyan, above the belly, yung belly button, then you put your fist, ibilog din sa likod ito, then try to push it up towards the chest area until maisuka ng pasyente or mailabas niya yung foreign object doon sa bibig.
There are several eye, ear, nose, and throat conditions that affect us Filipinos. When we return, we'll talk about good preventive measures for a good overall health, because your health is our mission. This is MedTalk Health Talk. We'll be right back. Physicians always follow the rule that prevention is always better than cure. Now, for our eyes, our ears, nose, and throat, having a regular checkup is always good to do. Now, the question is, how often should we do this and where can we go? For an eye exam, Dr. Glenn, gaano kadalas ba dapat ito? Should people go to their ophthalmologist kapag meron lang silang nararamdaman, or pwede ba itong something regular na ginagawa? And if so, how often?
Usually, we advise our patients at least an annual ophtha consult, at least once a year, no? For kids na kailangan magpalit ng eyeglasses, usually every 6 months, we ask them to come to us. But definitely, if may nararamdaman sila, they need to go to an ophthalmologist para makapag-consulta sila ng mas maayos.
Now, Dr. Paolo, when it comes to ENT, ear, nose, throat, regular exams, gaano kadalas ang magandang interval nito? Especially when it gets a parang full battery of tests with regards to our ears, our nose, and our throat.
Okay, there's no really specific time frame on when to really check it. But ideally for adults, ang tawag natin doon pag matatanda na humihina ang pandinig is what we call presbycusis. And I usually tell them that it would really happen because parang ng tao, parang sasakyan, as we grow old, may mga parte rin talaga ng katawan na pumapalya, and that's part of the ears. Some patients also who are exposed to loud noises, like patients who are working as seafarers na exposed din talaga sa loud noises, or those who are mga blue-collar jobs, yung mga nagdidrill, yung mga roadworks. Those are those patients na mas maganda talagang mabantayan yung hearing problems nila or yung hearing test nila. No? Now, in terms of hearing testing, wala rin talagang specific guidelines on when to do it. Usually, when patients would come to our clinics, they would complain of these hearing problems, and then that's the time we would recommend doing the hearing test. Now, once the hearing test would show that there is really hearing problem or decrease in hearing, doon tayo magmo-monitor probably. At least ako, I would tell them we monitor it annually for those patients na early onset at may mga trabaho. But for those older patients who would require hearing aids already, then probably every 2 to 3 years of hearing test monitoring for it.
Now, Dr. Glenn, pagdating naman sa mata, anong mga pagkain ang known na masustansya para sa mata or vitamins for that matter?
So usually we tell our patients to eat green leafy vegetables, more on green leafy vegetables lang naman. And we advise them na have their regular off-talk consult talaga. So we know if there are any concerns or problems because like for error of refraction, sometimes hindi naman nila nakikita yan eh. So minsan yung mga bata, lalo na for kids, magko-complain na lang yan, malabo. Vision niya or sa school. Right now, because of the Zoom, mas less nilang complain yung hindi nila makita yung blackboard, di ba? So usually for now, we advise them pag nagko-complain yung bata, or nag-squint yung bata to look at objects, then dalhin nila sa OFTA para mabigyan natin ng tamang reseta for the glasses.
Now, this discussion was indeed very helpful, and I'm sure our viewers learned a lot from our guests. So thank you very much, ophthalmologist Dr. Glenn Angeles and ENT head and neck surgeon Dr. Paulo Catindig. Maraming salamat sa inyo. Each of our senses play an important role by making our lives amazing when they work together. So it's important that we protect these organs. Before making any drastic changes to your health or undergoing treatment, always make sure to consult your doctor first. We want to be your partner for a lifetime of good health. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk.
Can trust. Listen to Newsnight, weekdays, 6 p.m.
We now go above and beyond the headlines,
followed by MedTalk Health Talk.
We'll talk about how to keep ourselves healthy during the pandemic.
Politics as usual.
In this country, not everything really goes according to plan, and politics is as usual.
Up close and more. Catch CNN Philippines Hour on DZKI-IRIGA. Weekdays, 6 to 7 p.m.
Saro sa mga kumonahelang kan mga senior citizen ngunyan, iyo ang katarata. Pagigwakan katarata, malabo ang paghiling mo, taigwang puting layer na nakatakop sa mata mo. Kaya lang, mahal magpa-opera ning katarata. An iBerry, an epektibong bulong sa katarata, asin iba pang kamatean sa panlalabo kan mga mata. An iBerry, igwang bilberry, asin ini gibo sa Amerika. Epektibo man an iBerry sa glaucoma, pterygium, astigmatism, pamumula, pagluluha, gatol, asin makulog ang mata dahil sa sobrang paggamit kan cellphone asin computer. An iBerry mababakal sa Mercury Drug, St. Joseph, Watson's, asin sa indong suking butika.
Mahalagang paalala, ang iBerry ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Sa pagpili ng liderato, laging tatandaan, dapat nasa kanya lahat ng katangian na maka-Pilipinas. Taong may respeto sa buhay at pamilya, makabuluhan at matinoong pamumuhay. Siya yung makapagtataguyod ng kabutihang panlahat, di mangiiwan, makakasama ang lahat. Malinaw ang pananaw sa makabagong bukas, makatwiran at patas pakisama, at higit sa lahat, maka-Diyos siya dapat. Sa pagpili ng liderato, laging tatandaan, dapat nasa kanya lahat ng katangian, maka-Pilipinas, maka-Pilipinas.
Gabayan ng Pilipinong bumoto ng responsable. Yan naman ang aming
Panatang Maka-Pilipinas.
Iboboto ko, Maka-Pilipinas.
Makabayan sa lupang sinilangan.
Makataot may respeto sa buhay at pamilya.
Siya ay makatwiran at patas makisama.
Masigasig tumulong makaahon ang bawat isa.
Makatarungan, makalingat, maalalahanin sa kapwa.
Makakasama ang lahat, siya'y di mangiiwan.
Siya ay makapagtataguyod ng kabutihang panlahat.
Siya ay makabatas.
Siya ay makatotoo.
Siya ay may malinaw na pananaw para sa makabagong bukas.
Higit sa lahat, siya ay makadiyos.
Kaya't ayaw niya ng karahasan. Siya ay makakapayapaan.
Iboboto ko ang isang tao na makakalayaan.
Isang leader na makakalikasan.
Isang Pilipinong makabuluhan